X. There you go.
Very nice. Very nice indeed. Well, it's cold and rainy here. Otherwise, I would be outside someplace. Okay, now what I don't have is your document that I can type on. Do I get that or not?
I will send a fresh Google Doc. Would that help you?
I don't know. Let us find out.
Okay.
And for some reason, where are, oh, there's you. There we go. Makes things interesting here.
Oh, you got it. You got it to open?
Not yet. Okay, that's in a mail document.
Just check your email.
Trying to do that.
Hi, everybody.
Hello.
Hey.
It's 9 o'clock, so why don't we get going? Bob's not going to be here, so he's delegated to me to run the meeting today. First up, attendance. So we don't have Bob, but we have Brian, me, John, and Wendy. So that makes a quorum.
Okay.
All right. Next up, review and approval of minutes. So we have I saw the February 20th.
Yeah, I sent both of them out again for the 13th and the 20th because Bob had a bunch of changes he wanted me to add in. So I just put them in and then I resent the whole thing to everybody.
I see. So the 13th were not approved last time?
No, we didn't get to that.
Okay. So let's start with that. Anybody have any comments on the minutes from February 13th? I don't hear any.
Okay.
Does anybody want to make a motion to approve the minutes of February 13th?
So moved.
A second, anybody?
Second.
All right. So Wendy has moved. John has second. So let's vote on that. Brian?
Aye.
John?
Aye.
Wendy?
Aye.
And I was at that meeting, so I will also say aye. All right, so it's 4-0. That one passes. So we move on to the February 20th meeting and the minutes from that meeting. We have a question here from Anne Marie first. Go ahead, Anne Marie.
Thanks, Jed. I'm sorry. I'm in the throes of car trouble. And I had a call at 8:30. Did we miss correspondence? Because I did have some.
No, that's next. That's next.
Oh, sorry.
That's next.
Okay.
Okay. Review and approve minutes from February 20th. Does anybody have any comments on the minutes of February 20th? All right. Don't hear any. Does anybody want to make a motion to approve the minutes of February 20th?
Motion to approve.
John makes a motion. Any seconds?
Second.
Wendy has seconded. Okay. Let's have a vote then. Brian?
Aye.
John?
Aye.
Add by PT Assistance and Ambassador Steers.
We don't hear you?
Wendy?
Sorry. Yes, go ahead.
And I will abstain. I wasn't there. So it's a 3-0. And we'll now move on to the next item. Review public correspondence. Anne Marie.
I just wanted to let the committee know, I did forward the email to Bob that Open Cape has formally requested a letter of support for
By PT Assistance and Ambassador Steers.
round 1B
Where's that coming from?
process. I don't know where that's coming from, but
Add by PT Assistance and Ambassador Steers.
That's Wendy's microphone.
I'm trying to turn this thing off and it won't let me do it.
but he was very specific in his request in the letter. Let me hold on. The request was to, a letter of support to connect your 2 remaining BSLs as designated by MBI on Bassett's Island and all community anchor institutions in Bourne to our fiber network. That was the email, the formal request that was sent.
I have more detail. He was emailing me up to 1 a.m. So
Okay. All right. So that the formal request is in, the select board has been notified. I sent it to the full select board and admin, and I also forwarded it to Bob.
Okay.
Yep.
So can cover that when we go through letters of support? That the way to handle that? Yeah?
Yes.
Okay.
Yep.
All right. So we'll move on then to old and ongoing business. First up is talking about letters of support. So I guess there's 2 to work on, Comcast and Open Cape. Anybody want to start with one or the other? No?
Well, I have
yeah,
I just
Go
have
ahead,
a quick
John.
question because I'm trying to, and forgive me, my wife has had some illness and actually we were in the hospital last night. I didn't get home till midnight, but exactly what are we talking about with unserved areas? Are we talking about those 2 locations that we discovered on the MBI census, or are we talking about more? In other words,
it is the 2 locations on Bassett, the westernmost house and the center, the one that's just adjacent to it in the center, roughly. Those are the 2 unserved based upon bead round 1. And then any CAIs they happen to pick up along the way are gravy in the eyes of MBI based on the scoring in round 1.
Okay. So we're not talking about anything big here, except now that Open Cape has talked about reaching some CAIs, which is very important.
Yes.
Okay. So, and how much, are we talking about BEAD funding here or GAP funding?
Bead.
Okay. So do they pay on a per passing basis, or is there going to be a flat amount?
Bead is complicated in round 1. So because of the overbuild clause, the overbuild section is 10% of the total project cost. The specific BSL costs, which are going to be quite high given it's an island, those are fully BEAD eligible at the 75%, unless they do something with long drop costing, which I'm not familiar. And whatever they need to run that would also be eligible. So if they got to build a colo to run that and put line cards and all that, that's also eligible. But the passing through the served is not grant eligible, other than the 10% overbuild credit.
So they have not yet had to specify how much funding they would like. Is that correct?
Not yet. That would do March 10.
Okay.
Henry?
Hey, Marie.
I don't have this number off the top of my head, and maybe you do, Brian, or anyone. What was the final count for CAIs for the town of Bourne that was accepted through the BEAD challenge process?
It's about 16. I just dumped them all into a Google map a second ago to figure out, what people are going to pass with their plans. So I think it's about 16 once I cleaned it up.
Because the letter did the letter of support did indicate that it was for all CAIs. So I was just curious what that number is.
Realistically, they might end up doing it in phases, because the CAI rules are likely to improve each round. So, I wouldn't find it objectionable if they did all the CAIs on the way to these 2 unserved, and then in subsequent rounds did the other CAIs, because they might actually get a better cost share in the future ones. So, we might be seeing this in phases. So that's not the end of the world, given that Open Cape does XGS PON if they're doing PON, and if they're or better, which would be straight up enterprise fiber. So that kind of meets our general criteria of XGS or better.
Okay.
So we have a proposed letter for Open Cape. Brian sent out. Anybody have any? Is that the letter we want to use? Does anybody have any comments on that letter?
I can fill you in a little more of their plan because he contacted me and had some concerns. We went back and forth until the middle of the night, given the time constraint. So the way I read, the way I read the rules is they're going to have to propose fiber to Bassett's Island, and then immediately MBI is going to view those as ultra high cost locations, and then follow back up with an applicant and request an alternative technology. And so in real world speak, it's ultimately, once they put in a bid for several $100,000 just for the fiber to build out there, it's going to be, microwave dishes, fixed wireless, or radio of some variety. So Open Cape already shoots radios 26 miles into the ocean to Pennakees Island. So 0.1 and 0.4 miles is well within their wheelhouse if they've got to go all the way to the edge of wings and then beam it to the last two houses.
Right. Their only problem is going to be where they put the dishes, and is there the public right of way? The microwave part for that short shot and that much data is pretty simple.
So,
So
are we okay
I've
with
got photos of the pole. So when we were trying to get the Buzzards Bay Sailing School out of the CAI, I anticipated this becoming an ultra high cost location, and I took photos from the top of the pole with line of sight to its targets. So I sent those to him last night, so he knew what he was aiming for.
So would any of this conversation affect the proposed letter?
No, it just letting you guys know what I know, so that you have all the information. I'm not going to make a motion yet, but we know the company, we know the technology they use, and we know the limitations of those unserved requires some flexibility.
Sure.
And because it will be ultra high cost, in almost all realities, it will end up being ultra high cost location after, they put their initial number in that's impossible with fiber. Not impossible, just hard, because you'd have to armor tube it, cross the channel, get permitting, go around wetlands. It's just going to end up being hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of $1,000s per each. So.
Okay. Anybody have any comments on whether we should or should not support Open Cape's letter?
Well, I'm fully in favor of it, because at least I believe what they've been doing in Buzzards Bay is that they have been serving some residential addresses, not many, but some, maybe, I don't know, if they're on the way to someplace else. Is that correct, Brian? In other words, if they're down a commercial strip and they're already serving it, then that can connect you if you're a residential.
Yeah, so wherever they have XGS PON, they can do a residential priced service. If it's just backbone, then you're in the, mid 3-figure starting price point. But yeah, they can do a residential small business price point, low 3 digits if you're on the XGS part of the network. And Buzzards Bay has that.
Anne Marie, you have your hand up.
Thanks, Jed. Yeah, I think it's a strong letter. I think it's, I like the way it's aligns with the town's priorities for, Wi-Fi and broadband services, high quality broadband services. So yeah, I think it's well written and to the point and very supportive. And Open Cape, I think, would definitely benefit from having the support letter in the application process. I think it's strong, and I hope it jumps them to a point where they can, get the funding they need. So, and then as far as Open Cape, I know that a lot of the retails that they're servicing down in Buzzards Bay and the commercial are mixed use, so they can, which is residential and commercial. So I think that's another way that they are able to service residents because of the zoning in the downtown district. But if I didn't realize that they could do independent residential because they're servicing, it's on the way to servicing a commercial building, which is a good thing.
Technically,
so especially if they're going to be servicing CAIs, and I mean, I think that's going to open up a little bit more the residential market for them. And
Yeah,
the
Yeah, they do the
Technically,
residential the
residential.
same they would as a small business. So it's
Right.
essentially the same process once the XGS PON is there.
Yeah, I just want to emphasize that that's technically possible, but they also have to have the support behind it in order to be able to support a residential service. And that, I think, has been the biggest impediment to them in the past. All right. MJ has her hand up. Go ahead, MJ.
Thanks. I haven't seen the letter. I think supporting Open Cape is a good idea. What's helpful to me is understanding some of the terminology. So if XGS means that it's going to provide a certain level of service, if we can somehow just incorporate that. And the reason I say that is one of the issues we're having with Comcast is if we're not specific about what level of service that we want them to provide, then they'll, maybe not provide the level of service that you're looking for. So and it helps me because then I can talk to people if someone says, well, what are they going to do? And I can say, well, they're going to give this level of service and Comcast's only going to give this level of service. And this is only my second meeting, so I'm learning. Thank you.
I'm happy to field that question. So XGS PON. So PON stands for Passive Optical Network, but really all you need to know is it means, all infrastructure is shared at some point. The question is where. And so the sharing for a home user is going to be a little greater than, say, a Fortune 500 company. And so like a home user might be splitting a pipe back to Boston 64 ways or 32 ways. So that's PON. The XGS indicates which lasers and what speed. So the advertised speed on XGS will be 10 gig symmetrical, so up and down, which is more than sufficient for modern use and good for quite a while to come. 10 is so fast that most network issues disappear because the bottleneck on the networks moved to the person's house so fast that no one noticed anything went wrong. So it's incredibly fast. Technically, it will end up being 9.6 gig symmetrical due to some nerdy thing called overhead. But so like carrier will advertise it as 10, but in real world, it's like 9.6 up and down.
Right. So what I'm saying is one of the things in the letter should say we support them because their XGS technology provides 10 gig symmetrical service. And that makes it very clear why we're supporting them. And I only say that because why we might not be supporting someone else might be because they're not providing 10 gig symmetrical service.
Right. But
Okay.
I mean, to be fair, coming back to Brian's point, is that 10 gig is shared and the level of sharing is pretty wide. I mean, it can go, some have gone to 256 in their XGS PON deployments and they're showing, sub gig service that they're offering. They're offering like 200 or 300 meg. So that's what makes it difficult in trying to compare the service level you're going to get from the technology. So I don't know. So do we want to modify this letter then and add XGS PON / 10 gig or better or something like that? What do we want
I
to
think
do?
it's safe to add the 10 gig. The technology is 10 gig, so we can call it that, I think, safely. We know they have a reputation of split levels that are, MJ, your mic is.
That's what they said in their letter to the select board asking for support was their 10 gig service. And they referenced that. So that would be good.
Yeah, and we really can't enforce split levels. I don't know how we do that.
They tend to be on the more generous side
They
than
do.
some carriers based on reputation.
They do. All right. So do we want to then say scratch XGS PON and replace it with 10 gig or better?
Well, isn't there a rule about? I thought there was the rule. The BEAD rule was that we had to write a letter of support with no conditions. So, are we putting a condition in?
I think we're just explaining why we love this proposal so much that we are giving them the unconditional support that MBI is asking for. And because they are so above and beyond MBI's requirements, and it meets all real world expectations for excellent speed.
Well,
think-
yes. And the
I
other
think
thing
that paragraph, I think that particular paragraph that speaks the XGS pond is just to, as a reinforcement to why we're giving the unconditional letter. I don't think it's a condition. I think it's the reason why we're supporting them unconditionally.
Yeah.
So I think it's fine to have that in the letter.
All right.
Wendy, do you want to bring it up on the screen, or Jed, do you want to bring it up on the screen and we'll just live edit this? And
Totally. Yeah, got it. Okay. This is the section area right here, right, that we're talking. Any proposals for wording?
I think we can just add that it's 10 gigs symmetrical in parentheses, brackets, or something, and that's probably sufficient. No need to overcomplicate it, since MBI is familiar and it gives enough detail that we're memorializing why here.
Yeah, I can't do anything on this. There are a couple of, just typos and a grammatical issue or two. And when this is all done, if you could send this to me, I'll clean those up. But I won't change any of the actual content. If that's okay with everybody.
Is that allowable to make a motion
prefer
to
to
pass
fix them.
something with typo correction, or just do it live?
I prefer to do it now.
Okay,
let's
well,
just do
let's
it
see if
live
I
then.
can do that.
Well, Jed has it live
I
on
got
his
it open.
screen,
Just
so
tell me
just
what to change. Yeah.
What?
Tell me what to fix.
Bass's Island has 2 T's in it,
Got it.
and somewhere else it says Bassett's, but there's no possessive, unless I was looking at a previous episode. Yeah.
I can't because of my rotator cuff issues.
Oh,
I'd be handcuffed this way versus I can barely
does
get my-
this, I sent out another version that explained the
Well, that's what-
ultra high cost location problem. You want to add that paragraph in?
Does it matter?
Piece change. It's a shape, yeah. Use.
I don't think it does.
Yeah.
Okay.
12 sections, and the goal of this institute is it involves 12 people instead of having, events when they have keynote speakers or they're going to be usual cast of characters who come up and have something.
Wendy, your mic is on.
Oh, sorry.
Anything else from anybody?
That's equals to others.
All right.
I think it's fine, and it's open enough where we're not, we're not beating them up on anything. So
I just want to avoid an issue later. We know that most likely the XGS will only go to the edge of Wings Neck because of the ultra high cost condition. So do we need to note that we were aware of that when we made this decision?
you could just say XGS pond in parentheses where possible or something.
I just feel like we're going down the road of making the conversation more complicated than it has to be.
Right, yeah, I think we're digging into too much of the detail here.
Yeah.
This is a very strong, to the point. We understand, these are reasons why we're giving you unconditional support.
All right. Any more comments? Anybody want to make a motion?
Motion to approve.
Second? Anybody?
Second.
Okay, let's do a vote here. Wendy,
Aye.
John,
Aye.
Brian,
Aye.
Jed as I. All right, passes 4-0. All right, so logistically here, should I send this to who? The select board, Anne Marie, MJ, everybody?
No, you sent it to our Marlene. Because it
Marlene,
becomes
okay.
part of the agenda. Yeah, you send it to from Marlene and MJ, and then when they make final decisions about the agenda items, and they'll attach it.
Okay, and I'll copy the committee when I do that. Okay, stop sharing. So let's move on now to Comcast. Is a proposed Comcast letter of support. Anybody want to start the conversation?
I emailed Comcast requesting a copy of their plan and have yet to receive a response. Has anyone else received a copy of their plan or any conversation or indicator of technology, routing, anything?
Nope.
All right, anybody else want to talk about Comcast? What are we doing there? My general feeling is we need to support Comcast. I'm very frustrated with them. But I think it's better if we support Comcast and get funding coming into the town. So I would propose we send them a letter. MJ, you have your hand up. Go ahead.
Yeah, so I do. So I think you at the last meeting, you talked about concerns that what they were doing for the underserved areas that are now being done under the GAP thing, where they're not providing a level of service above the 100 to 20, or the future technology. I think that combined with the fact that they had 3 years to provide the cable company, Bourne Community TV, with an HD, a fourth channel in HD, and certain modulators, something to replace it. They were supposed to, some equipment, I don't know the technical term, and that they haven't done it, and that the deadline for that is March 31st, and for the 3 years, because they verbally told us 2 years, but then they said they had 3 years according to the contract.
That is
So
correct, but they did promise. I thought, Jed, you pursued this. I thought at one point they came back to us and specifically said, "Oh no, we'll take care of it in 2024." Am I correct in that?
Well, no, they said maybe we'll do it in 2020. They said maybe.
Oh, maybe. Okay.
And they noted that they have a deadline of spring 2025. I took that to mean they weren't going to do anything until the last minute.
So I did confirm with Jen McGrail this morning that it has not been done.
Okay.
And I think she had a conversation with Bob Dwyer about that too. So, so your original letter, which you proposed for the select board, where we withdraw our support from the previous support because they weren't meeting the conditions. I'm more inclined to say that to write something that says that, and I don't have the letter of support that we wrote, and you said that there were conditions in that said that they were going to provide certain things, and believe me, we get 200 pages every packet, and going back to figure out what that letter said, and whenever we sent it, it's not in my wheelhouse right now. But I have some concerns about a carefully written letter that somehow withdraws our support if they're not going to do this for what they've been doing. Because when I did talk to Baldini, he said that if we wrote a letter withdrawing our support, then he'd go back to us and have a conversation. And I'm sort of sharing your concerns. After the last meeting, I tried to call him. His voicemail was full, so I couldn't leave him a voicemail. And I sent him an email. I'm not sure if it was the correct address. It didn't bounce back, but I didn't get a response. So I think writing a letter of support for Comcast for this, if they're not going to be providing the level of services Brian said, and I'm not sure that we should do that. I don't know. I mean, we need to do something that gets them to really step up to the plate, I think. So that's all I'm going to say.
I'm personally disappointed that our hands are semi-tied by the requirement for an unconditional letter. That really, limits the flexibility here quite a bit. So that's why to try to know what we are agreeing to, that's why I wrote a letter of not support, so that we, could point out why, if that's the decision the committee wants to make today, why we're not going to write a letter of support. These are the conditions why. Whether we send it or not, that's a question, but it's more to memorialize what we know now and what we would have needed to know to do anything. Is anyone interested in maybe looking at that and discussing from there?
So one thing I just heard MJ say that was really piqued my interest was that we might get MBI's attention if we withdraw support for Comcast.
I would approve that motion if someone wanted to reaffirm what we voted on the last few meetings. I would agree with that.
Anne Marie, you have your hand up. Go ahead.
Sure. I think there's two things that might be helpful here. One is, yes, withdrawing our letter that they applied to GAP round 2 because they didn't meet the conditions and they have no intentions of meeting the conditions. And secondly, not supporting, like if we're withdrawing this GAP round letter of support, why would we send a letter of support for BEAD funding? And I get it, we're kind of in that, if we don't and they don't get the money, then how do these places get served? But if it grabs MBI's attention, I think we're at a point where we really need to put a kibosh on the decision making and what's happening at the MBI level and the impact it's having on the community. Brian, I did like your letter of non-support. I don't know do we send that to MBI or do we respond to Comcast with a letter of why we're not supporting them?
I believe we can do both, and we could add a line if we want to, withdrawing the GAP letter with one sentence added to the end of that. Furthermore, we withdraw our GAP letter of support. So we could do this at the same time.
Wendy, your mic's off.
I know. I'm sorry, Brian, say that again.
Well, so if you want to get really nerdy with the mechanics, the way MBI wrote the BEAD support letters is that you can reuse a GAP letter if it's unconditional, which ours was not, but MBI reserves the right to contact a town and ask, do you still support it? So I think if we are removing our support, the format in which we do it is flexible. So we could just send this letter to MBI and our support is withdrawn.
Okay. Any other thoughts on that? Should we
And
edit this letter?
that's for GAP and for BEAD too?
Yes, we could simultaneously withdraw them if we chose to do that.
Well, we
But
haven't.
I'm putting it in the same letter, I mean.
Yeah. We haven't supported BEAD. So I think what the proposal is that we would pull the GAP funding at the same time. We would say that we're not going to support BEAD in the same letter.
And I think we already cover the problem with the BEAD challenge locations going to GAP in the letter of not support. So I feel like it would be less work to take that and modify it to be sufficient. Since it's short, it's already shortened to the point, we can modify that quickly.
So
Plus, if I read this properly, what you're doing is saying, here are the conditions. If you meet this, we can underwrite you.
Or we could talk anyway.
Right.
We can talk.
Which is
The way
gives
we wrote
them
it is to
time.
talk.
It gives them time because they haven't responded to anything. The question I have, and obviously MJ was not able to get an answer to this again, is everybody going to be ruled out of the BEAD funding because of that interpretation of the law that said you aren't approved for GAP, you're not approved for BEAD, and that it has to be Comcast? And I don't know the answer to that question. Because
I
this,
don't think anyone knows at this time. MBI, judge, jury, and executioner, so to speak. So we can give them our opinion and see where it goes.
Isn't that withdrawing support for gap funding application
State House. And
or gap application or whatever terminology is appropriate?
No, what everybody likes. This is
Gap
what
program, maybe. Let me go check the way they worded it on their website.
Aren't you withdrawing the letter of support for the gap funding application?
Yes.
Yes, we're just getting the technical name of the program for Gap Networks Grant Program is the full name.
Gap Networks, what again?
Gap Networks Grant Program is the title for the page that the grant lives on.
That's what I've got here. Any more comments?
I would approve. I'd make a motion to approve this.
The letter?
Yeah.
Okay.
Should we say as of the above date or immediately, or
I
I'd
think-
say as the above date, give them something positive, definitive, so they can point to. As of the date of this letter or something like that, because Lord knows how long it'll take somebody to open that up.
Oh, I see.
should we also put in a clause there that says if Comcast is willing to meet these conditions, that we will reconsider?
Well, we
Our
said, it says
Oh,
that.
yeah.
It says, should Comcast seek our endorsement, we would consider a proposal that includes these minimum.
Oh, okay, you're right. I'm sorry, I didn't see that. You're absolutely correct. It's well worded.
Thank you.
Right.
To make it what we would accept requires more lines. That splits requires commitments to the low cost plans for MBI. There's a lot more like we would have to add here. So this is kind of a fairly robust shorthand for the overall problem. So I
Yeah.
think it's probably good as written,
I agree.
unless there's typos or.
No, I think I think it's good as written. I think the main motivation behind this is to make something happen, quote unquote, right? So I don't think we need to add more detail at this point. Any more comments on the letter?
Should we add in so we had another version of it, and my only fear is it makes it too complicated. Do we add in that the 1,700 locations should be moved to feed 2?
But I mean, again, we're withdrawing support here, right? We're saying we're pulling out.
Yeah.
I don't. So that's not a conversation to have if you're pulling out, right?
Okay. Let's just pull out of our support and
You know,
keep it simple.
On the off chance that they say, oh, yeah, we'll do all that. But this proposal includes these, but is not limited to.
Right, but they're going to have to come back to us.
So they, and at that point, if the 1,700 needs to be addressed or put into play, we can do that then.
Correct. That's my feeling.
It leaves us some flexibility. If the goal is to get them to come back to us, I think having some flexibility is helpful. Given the difficulty of drafting a committee letter, sending it to the select board, and getting on the agenda, I think we should a little bit of wiggle room is probably helpful.
Anybody want to make a motion?
Can I just say something before you make a
Of
motion?
course. Go ahead.
So Liz Hartsgrove had written to Robert Dwyer requesting the committee's response to the Comcast's request for a letter of support. So, and I'm thinking, I have to think logistics. Okay, so we're going to have a select board meeting on March 4th. If this committee is going to respond to Liz Hartsgrove and say the SciTech committee is not supporting Comcast on is not supporting a letter of support for this, so that she knows and can communicate that to Mike Gala. There is a possibility that Comcast and Mike Gala will come to the March 4th meeting. And I've actually been thinking about asking him to come, especially because of the cable. And I read somewhere that March 9th is the deadline for getting a letter of support. So I just want to make sure that whatever motion you do, it includes a response to Liz Hartsgrove about what she asked this committee to do for today.
I think if we approve this letter, we let her know that we won't be issuing a letter of support. Even if Comcast came out with the best plan possible, which they could, it would be, I think, insufficient time at this point for us to put together support for BEAD 1. BEAD 2, maybe, never closing the door on opportunities. But realistically, yeah, we'd be having conversations for BEAD 2 with them at any later than now.
Okay. All right. Again, I'll ask for anybody wanting to make a motion on anything at this point, or what do we want to do here?
Can I
So-
just make one comment? We are withdrawing our letter of support for Comcast for the Gap Networks grant program, right?
Mhm.
I
Yeah.
think you should kind of put that in. I think we wrote more than one letter, so.
Isn't this letter addressed to Comcast?
No, but
It's-
I understand the clarification here is that we issued a number of letters of support, so let's be clear about which one we're withdrawing. That makes sense.
Easy enough to add it to make it clear.
Can you say any and all prior?
No, we don't. Well, there's only one.
Well, the prior then of
It was
date.
technically for GAP. So if we want to be really particular, it's a GAP 1 support letter. Comcast ruled GAP 1 support letters can flow to GAP 2 and then to BEAD.
So you
So
say
if you want to be really
our
particular, it's GAP 1.
But
so
it's
you
all
say our
part of the
previous letter
same
of
gap.
support dated with us and
Correct.
such.
It's all
Yeah,
part
we-
of the same Gap Network grant program. There was just a round 1 and round 2.
Oh, yeah, but if
I
there's
think
a,
the one is
but if there's a question,
unnecessary.
if there's a
as
question
well.
about which letter,
We
There is
only
no
we
said
only
question.
wrote
one.
one
They only
letter.
have one from
and
us.
so we just
There-
say, with reference to the letter we sent on whatever date that was.
Yeah, but there is no question of which letter.
Oh, I'm
December 5th.
sorry, I thought there was.
No,
No.
there's only one letter.
Okay, then, piece
Right.
cake.
December 5, 2023.
The only
Right.
problem with that, Brian, is if the date got moved somewhere along
Oh, it's
the
fine.
line.
Yeah.
Let's not go there.
Yeah. Let's not add tripping hazards when we don't need them.
Yeah.
I think this is sufficiently specific.
I think so too.
I make
All right.
a motion to approve this letter as written.
Anybody want a second? Wendy seconds. All right, so let's have a vote.
Ryan, can you add to that motion, sorry, that you're going to notify Liz?
Oh, sorry, my bad. And I will email Liz saying we will not be providing a letter.
And just notify the assistant town administrator that we are not providing a letter of support to Comcast.
Yep, Liz Hargrove, the assistant town administrator, will be notified today after this motion passes that we will
Yeah,
not be
with
providing
both
a letter of
letters,
support.
like this letter of non-support and the other letter of support for Open Cape. I think both have to go, they have to know like exactly what we're going.
All right, I'll get to logistics after we vote. So we have a motion, we have a second. Wendy, how do you vote? Okay, she says aye. John?
Roll call. It's roll call because of Zoom, so you got to come off mic.
Wendy,
Come
you
on,
need to
Mike.
turn your mic on because it's a roll call.
John?
Aye.
Brian?
Aye.
I vote aye, so it passes 4-0. All right, so one way to deal with this is for me to put both letters in an email to Liz and Marlene, and copy MJ and the committee. State that we're not going to support Comcast. We are supporting Open Cape. And there's a withdrawal letter for Comcast. Put all that in one email. Does everybody like that?
I think that's fine.
Yeah? Everybody okay with that? All right, that's what I'll do. All right, after the meeting, that's the plan. Okay, let's move on to the next agenda item. I can find it here. Okay, liaison with the Cape Cod Technology Council. I know I haven't been attending myself. The agenda haven't been interesting to me. I don't know, has anybody else been going?
I think we discussed the last meeting at our last SciTech meeting. Since I presented the FAQ, I think 2 weeks back, that MBI release, but I think we discussed that last week.
Yeah, but I mean, there's no other, I mean, I know there was a meeting. I don't think there's anything scheduled right now, right?
No, nothing unless we, their board at the last meeting, they were recommending to their board to send a letter to Comcast asking to extend the deadline for BEAD 1 submittals, given that most towns in the state don't even have a cost quest license at this point, and the backlog is many weeks. So most towns can't even decode the list to figure out what they're supporting or not.
Okay.
So that their board meets on Friday. Was the last email update I received from someone. But other than that, no meetings
Right. Okay.
since last week.
All right, we'll move on to Mass Broadband Coalition. I think that's Bob's, and he's not here. Anybody else? Anybody have anything there?
No meetings
No.
since last week.
All right, let's move on. Liaison with other towns, including Mashpee, Wampanoag. There's really nothing going on. I mean, I've been checking around. I think at the municipal level, attention is elsewhere. There's really, and Falmouth, where there was the MLP, they're in the process of dissolving. So there's really nothing going on anywhere on the Cape.
Actually, the Mashpee Wampanoags reached out to me for some help. Given that Verizon withdrew its gap plan in the town of Mashpee, the Mashpee tribe is interested in pursuing the locations under BEAD 1. They are having the same problem as everyone else, that they don't have a cost quest license executed yet. So they are scrambling to do that, and hopefully the Tech Council's letter asking for more time helps towns like or the tribe in that situation.
Okay, cool. All right, let's move on to regional approach to broadband. I'm not sure what we're covering here. Does anybody know what this agenda item is for?
This is just the dig once and the one touch make ready. Those are statewide issues. We discussed them, I think, a few weeks back, but there's been no update since the
that's different.
previous
That's
meeting.
different. That's different than item I.
Oh, sorry. Regional approach would be a Cape-wide approach. Yeah, there's been no update on that since last week.
Yeah, I don't know that there's, like I said, I don't know there's anything going on. All right, potential application for DOR fiber funding.
We may need to, once we communicate with the bidders for BEAD 1, we may need to communicate with them if the economics get tight to apply for that and use it as contributed structure. So at this time, no one has asked, but that's something we might need to regroup shortly prior to the March 10th deadline and discuss.
All right, we'll move on to the next one, digital equity plan and implementation. I don't know if we're doing what's going on. Anne Marie, go ahead.
Yeah, I just wanted to give you an update. I do know that Marlene and some members at the town hall were invited to go to a workshop with respect to digital equity and public Wi-Fi. So I know Marlene, and I'm not sure who other in the at town hall, and this is in reference to that small mini grant of 75,000 that they're going to have a workshop on, and how best to accomplish, some of the digital equity priorities that our town obviously wants to pursue, and what this committee had recommended. So that's March 19th. So I'm sure she'll give me an update on how that workshop went.
Okay, great.
I think, did we not say that part of this was being delayed or or deferred pending when the town gets the cyber attack squared away?
Well, she's gathering additional information and on so that when we're ready to deploy the monies and follow through with the grant priorities that the side tech recommended, this is just part of that. The timing of it, we're not sure on, right? Because we need to get through, but that's what
Okay,
this is.
so the timing is unclear,
and
and
it makes
we'll
no
find
sense.
out later, huh?
Right, it makes no sense to,
Okay.
to start anything now until we finalize the cyber attack issue.
Okay. Anything else? All right, fiber service to Barlow's Landing cell tower. I went on the Cape Cod Commission website this morning. There's been no movement at all. They had the initial kickoff meeting. There is an opening for comments. Haven't seen any. There's nothing scheduled. So yeah, nothing going on at Cape Cod Commission. They're just waiting for the time to run through.
I emailed the applicant's contact just because the only thing that I think that concerns us is finding out if they are extending fiber to the tower and what's the routing in case it coincides with any of our other plans. Haven't received a response. So do we want to put a formal comment in that is our only question?
I guess so. So I went back and looked and read through it again. Vertex is not providing fiber according to their filing, but Verizon is, according to Verizon's plan. It's kind of weird the way that there's no mention of how the fiber gets there. And then I went and looked at more of what Vertex does. They're really a construction company for the most part. They're unlike Crown, was it Crown Castle?
Crown Castle, yeah.
Yeah, they're unlike Crown Castle's a communications company, and so when they deliver, they actually provide the fiber service. But if you look at the Vertex filing, they said they're only providing telephone and power. That's all they're going to put in the building. But if you look at the Verizon plan, Verizon says that they're going to be using fiber to support the FWA and cell service. So it's kind of weird, and you wouldn't expect that Verizon would just do fiber for themselves, right? If the other four show up, they got to be sharing the same.
Yeah, I'm sure they're going to lease them some space. I mean,
yeah. So it's very unclear, but I don't think Vertex is going to tell you anything because I don't think they're providing the fiber, but based on the filing.
I think they're just a tower owning company.
Yeah. I mean,
Tower, that's what they
go
are.
on their website, and they're all about real estate and construction.
Right.
So anyway,
Can
I
we
don't.
ask, assuming, we know we probably won't get an answer, and I agree with you, there's probably a 99% chance they won't answer. Do we bother sending the one sentence question, like what's the route?
I guess I don't know. Somebody wants to do that. I'm not gonna vote no. No? Anybody else? Go ahead, Wendy.
This may be a stupid question, but that's what you have me for. Is if Open Cape gets the bid to service the community anchor institutions down Barlow's Landing Road, would they tap fiber into that too?
Totally. In fact, Open Cape does fiber swaps with Crown Castle just for that purpose.
Okay.
So it's
Good to know.
entirely possible that this could end up being an Open Cape run where they do a fiber swap with somebody. I think I heard at some point that they don't like to do dark fiber leases. I think Steve Smith told us that, but they will do fiber swaps. So I don't know. I mean, the fiber's going to get. My feeling is the fiber's going to get there.
There's no other realistic way to handle the traffic.
The fiber's going to get there one way or the other.
It's either that or a microwave, and even the microwave wouldn't probably handle everything they do.
Well, Verizon has said that there's the intention of having fiber in the building, and Vertex says they're only providing power and phone. So draw your conclusions. We can draw conclusions from that, and I think it's obvious that they're going to share the fiber amongst all the other, right? Nobody's going to run separate pairs for every one of those.
Yeah.
And,
It's one cable.
right. So I don't know.
At the broadcast towers
In
I
the
worked at,
filing,
that's
does
what
it
it
say?
was.
So in the filing, Vertex is. I'm not asking stupid questions here. So is Vertex is building the fiber? Who's the owner listed as of the fiber, or does it not say?
No, Vertex is silent on fiber.
Okay.
They are only providing power and phone into the building.
So it depends on, because Crown, I think, is a REIT. So sometimes they own it and then lease it out to everybody. So
Yes,
you know,
it's a
if
different
Crown
model.
is the holder, absolutely 100%. That is their modus operandi if Crown owns it. If Verizon owns it, it'd be different. So yeah, that's kind of why I'm just curious who's going to own it, so we know who to go to if we need to.
Well, it seems quite clear it's not going to be Vertex. They're saying in their filing they're only doing power and phone. And if you look on their website at all the other monopoles they've done, they've never provided fiber.
Someone's bringing it in, not on the app.
Yeah. Go. Yeah, and Verizon says there's going to be fiber in the building. And they're because they have a plan. They're saying, here's what we're going to do. We're all behind Vertex doing this. We're putting the antenna here. We're going to have fiber in the building. So who's bringing it? It won't be Vertex.
It's worth the 5 seconds to make the ask, even if we don't get an answer.
All right, you want to run with that?
Yeah, I'll write the question and ship it in.
Okay. Do we think we need to review it and vote on it? What do you guys think?
It's always a good idea. It's always a good idea to just, as a committee.
All right.
Yeah, I want to know. I'll make a motion that the committee wants to know where the fiber's running.
So what I'm suggesting is
who's gonna own it.
that can you come back to the next meeting with the email you want to send, and we'll all approve it, and you can send it.
What's the comment deadline?
Oh, it's way out there, months. Right, I think it was 90 days, 60 to 90 days from the filing, and the filing was in. Oh,
If
Yeah.
if Brian says now what his question is going to be, and we approve him sending that, we don't have to wait for later to
Yeah.
see the actual words on paper.
I'm going to put a formal comment in that our committee would like to know who is going to own the fiber, where is it going to run, and is it available for lease to third parties?
all right, and you're going to put the public comment in on the Cape Cod Commission webpage?
Sure. Yeah, since the applicant hasn't responded, so we'll ask on the Cape Cod Commission webpage.
All right, I'll shoot you the link to that.
Okay.
All right, so anybody want to make a motion to do that?
So moved.
Second?
Second,
All right, Wendy, how do you vote? You got to be on audio. I'm sorry.
Aye.
John,
aye.
Brian.
Aye.
All right, I vote aye. It's 4-0. All right, let's move on. Pole attachment, reviewed by State DPU and Department of Telecommunications. Where are we? Anybody know where we are on that?
And you were out when this came up. It was attached to an entire packet of maybe 100 pages to one of the select board meetings, and it was something from the Department of Telecommunications saying that they were asking all the pole owners to basically explain what they have, any changes they have planned, and what they would charge, and so it would essentially obfuscate the idea of us having to ever pay for a poll survey. It has to be made public. I don't know if you saw that or not. If not, I can find it.
Yeah, no, this has been around for a while, this process. I'm very, very familiar with what's going on. So what's our activity here? What do we need to be doing on this?
We were just monitoring to see whether or not they. I'm the one that originally brought it up just to say this is interesting. After we were talking about spending thousands of dollars on a poll survey, that this information might be available for free. Or it might be at this point, it may not even apply because with all the other stuff that's going on. But the idea behind it, if you saw it, was basically the Department of Telecommunications wanted to see if there was pole space available to add additional services, which were primarily internet access, from what I gather.
Yep. No, like I said, I remember being at the meeting at Cape Cod Tech Council when this came up. I'm all for it, but so what do we do? What's our action?
Nothing we can do. Monitor it.
Well, other than, and I'm not making a motion, just other than the only thing we could do is send letters to the pole owners and utilities and ask them, are they compliant, and have they responded to the state on this? Because, if we're about to be doing a lot of fiber building, we want to make sure that we're not on the or if a bunch of fiber is about to be built in Bourne, we want to make sure it's not on the slow end of the compliance timeframe.
So has it passed into law? I mean, the last I knew, it was still in committee.
That's kind of what I saw, was that this was a proposal.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it was in committee the last I knew, and that's when it came to the Cape Cod Technology Council. They were asking for support at the committee level. I don't know that it's a joint committee on telecommunications, I believe. I forget who's in that.
Is this separate than the One Touch bill that's held up in the House committee?
No, that's the one I'm talking about.
The one, okay. Oh, I think we've generally been supportive of this, and we'd love to see it advance because it's a huge bottleneck item and a complaint by every telecom company complains that poles take forever to get access to. Regardless of who they are, they all hate it.
All right. So what do we do?
MJ has a question.
Go ahead, MJ.
So I was at the Cape and Islands Municipal Leaders Association meeting, and there was a presentation by Cape Lake Compact about some survey that they're doing. Comments due by March 18th. DPU 2510 utility pole attachments, conduit access, double poles. I think there's some sort of survey that's going on. Responses due to Compact by March 4th. Maybe I can scan this and send it to someone, because
Please.
You guys might be people that should be actually responding to this survey. I don't know what to say, but you guys.
Please. Yeah, that'd be great.
Yeah.
We can take a look at it. Sounds like that committee might be looking to push it ahead into, general floor vote.
Yeah, so it says, please distribute to appropriate person. I'll send it to somebody.
Thank you.
I'm sorry, MJ, who was that from?
So it was the Cape and Islands Municipal Leaders Association had a presentation by Cape Lake Compact about this Department of DPU survey that's going on.
Yeah, we should definitely look at it. If we can do anything, even if it shaves a few months off compliance by just being the squeaky wheel, I think given our desire to see the service built quickly, that'd be one way we could move the needle months. When every provider universally complains about the process.
All right. Anything else on this item? All right, moving on. Cable TV, Comcast. John, you had something on this?
Yes, I have. I got very involved. Thanks again to Brian for putting me through to Michael Mail. He's a very nice guy. He was as confused as everyone. And when I started to question him in detail, he got to the point where he said, let me have somebody call you from Comcast. And he did, a gentleman by the name of Michael Porterfield. And I take it he's national, because he was discussing contracts in Pittsburgh and San Francisco with me. Apparently, at some point, Comcast is renegotiating with a lot of the regional sports networks, not just here, but all around the country. And I asked about the late notice, the fact that they were supposed to give 30 days. And he basically said this arrived on his desk like one Monday morning, a few days before they had to put it into place. So there wasn't time. And in fact, they did add it in small print to the bottom of the February bill. I went back and looked. If you look at the bottom of your bill, like page 5 or 6, there will be something there where they explain, we're dropping this channel, we're adding that channel. As to the money, this is where it gets really interesting. So the letter that we received originally from Michael Gala said something to the effect that you'd have the option that if you wanted to retain your subscription to NESN and NBC Sports Boston, you could go either to Digital Preferred or Ultimate TV. And I pointed out to Mr. Porterfield that no, Digital Preferred was not offered here. And he said that that was correct, that this gets into a matter of semantics, but essentially what happens is what they were supposed to do and didn't do was to come to all the subscribers who had NESN and NBC Sports Boston and tell them that there was going to be a $20 a month increase in their bill to keep these services on, and that the way that it was going to be structured was they were going to give it to you on an introductory rate of $10 a month for the first 2 months, and then after that it would go up to $20. So as it turns out, when you look at all this, and I had to do a lot of math because when I changed my plan, I also changed my internet plan because they were offering an introductory rate for a higher speed. But it turned out that the whole increase for me going from what my old grandfather plan was to the highest plan they have, which is Ultimate TV, was $19.76 a month, which was a few cents less than the $20 a month. However, he explained to me, he said they should have offered you, you should have had the chance to add on to your old plan. And so they offered me, they threw in a $20 credit basically for that time period for me. But they have never made it clear to the other subscribers that this was the problem. He essentially said, yeah, we dropped the ball. We did not explain to people what the situation was. You were given only one choice. But as it turns out, the choice, at least from my standpoint, is that I'm paying $19.76 more. I'm getting another, I don't know, 50 or 60 channels, but I'm getting NESN and NBC Sports for the same $20 a month that I would have been paying if I just wanted to add it on to my existing plan. So they never offered it. And I'm not sure if the town wants to pursue that with Mr. Gala or not, to have them go back and try to do it. But Mr. Porterfield admitted that they dropped the ball there. But in terms of actual cash, it doesn't make a big difference. So you're going to pay the $20 a month one way or the other. The only difference would be you'd get a $10 discount for the first 2 months, and that was it. So I do have this gentleman's phone number. He works on a national basis, and he said that anybody that was really perturbed, that I could give that phone number out. So if someone gets in touch with us and says, I really want to talk to Comcast, he is willing to talk to them. He was able to pull up my bill and discuss it with me in detail, and I had pages of notes, and it took me a while to figure out. But then when I finally did, I realized that essentially he was right. The problem was that they didn't really, as you know, their bills are inscrutable at times. My bill appeared to go up because there were partial charges for a month. And they don't explain to you. They just say, well, there are these partial charges, but they don't break it down. So I thought I was paying $40 a month. I was actually paying $19.76 a month plus money from the previous billing period where I had raised my my service. So
Okay, John, you have your hand up, John. Go ahead, John York. John York, go ahead.
Yes, thank you. So we just heard from John Frank what happened to one customer who tried to upgrade or did upgrade. The other half of that story is what happens to a customer who chooses not to upgrade.
Right, and I talked to you, and if you wanted to email me, I gave you my email address. I will be happy to, or if you want me to call you, to give you the name, give you Mr. Porterfield's direct phone line, and you can speak to him directly.
Yeah, when I talked to you a week ago, I thought you said I sent you the contact information. I
never got it.
Oh well, maybe we better check that we have our contact info.
All right. So why don't I believe I have your phone number and you have mine. You want to just give me a call and I will give you the information?
How about you call me, because I have your phone number, but I'm not looking at it right now. So if you call me after this, can you do that?
Yes, I will do that. I will call you and give you the information to discuss with Mr. Porterfield. He also, just for extra information here, I went out and explained a lot of things about the difficulty people have had with their customer service and their AI-based customer service. And he admitted that it was not optimum and said that it is a contractor and that they are searching for another contractor, but he had no idea when and if this would change, because as you pointed out, John, and as I have run into on many occasions, you call and you start talking to the AI, and then it just hangs up on you if you don't like the choices it's giving you. And that is a real problem. Their customer service years ago used to be pretty good, but not so much anymore. So they are aware of that problem. But I will get in touch with you. I will give you that contact information, and he will look up your bill specifically, and then he will send you a code by email or text or whatever that you need so that you can authenticate what's going on, and then he will discuss it with you.
All right,
Great.
John, anything else?
Yeah, so thank you for that. I just want, for the record, to relay to the committee as brief a synopsis as I can of what happened to me as a customer who chose not to continue with the services which had gone up in price. First of all, as John Frank pointed out, the notification went out in the February bill, but the change happened on January 14th. So the notification via the bill was after the fact. The notification that we received on January 14th was we turned on the TV at 7 p.m. to watch the Celtics game. And when we went to that channel, there wasn't anything on our TV immediately that said there was any change. But when we went to that channel, it wasn't available. So I called customer service, and at their national 1-800 Comcast customer service line, I'm sure they know where I'm calling from, so they can target the call to me. But instead of getting something that says press 1 for English or 2 for Spanish, the immediate statement was, if you are calling about any SN or any whatever the two
NBC Sports Boston.
NBC Sports Boston, you'll be pleased to know that they've been moved to a new tier, and press 1 to upgrade your plan to that tier. That's what I got immediately without having to make any choices.
Right.
So obviously they had set the trap, and it was baited, and they were ready to catch the customers as they came in. So my reaction was, I'm not going to upgrade. And we pay extra for a sports tier to get NECN and New England sports, specifically because we watch Celtics and Red Sox, and those are the two that you can do that. So my conclusion was, well, if that's no longer available on the tier we're paying for, we were going to stop paying for that entire sports tier. We're not going to upgrade, we're going to downgrade. So I called customer service a week later and requested that they remove that sports tier from our account, and explained why. And he looked at it and said, oh, you have a legacy plan, you can save much more. We can't change your legacy plan. So you have to get a new plan. So we went for a minimalist new plan that was supposed to be $60 less than our current plan. And I went over that with the customer service guy many times. And I said, there's all these things in your bill that are itemized. I want to know what the bottom line of my bill. I read to him what my current bottom line was, and it's itemized. He said, yes, it will now be $183 a month. We were paying $238. So that sounded great. So I said, make that change. He said, okay, we're making that change. A month later, I get my bill, and we're paying $218, and it says we're still on the old plan we were on. Now we're 2 months into us paying for service that we haven't been receiving, because you pay a month in advance. I've got a bill that was sitting in front of me that's to pay for services rendered through the month of March. That's how long is that after June 14th? That's still billing me for services that haven't been providing for 2 months. And so I called customer service back, and again, unprompted, but not, they give you a chance to go for English or Spanish first. But after that, they again address the issue of NESN and New England Sports Network, and say that customers who do not upgrade will receive a credit on their bill. Now, we didn't upgrade, and we've never received any credit. I went back over my bill. There's a specific name for the credit. It was not on our bill. So that's completely false advertising. And I assume they're telling the regulators that I'm getting a rebate that I'm not even getting. So, so there's something wrong with that beyond just bad public relations. But so I heard from John Frank that they don't have to, for some reason, there's a loophole in the law. They don't have to provide the 30-day notice.
Right. I can explain that briefly. Right. There's an
No, but we don't need to go that. I just
Okay.
want to say, so I called back customer service, spent over an hour on the phone, of which 10 minutes was actually talking time to a customer service agent. The other 50 minutes were on hold in 10-minute pieces. I asked at the very beginning of the call to be transferred to a supervisor. They never did. They told me that a supervisor would call back within 24 hours. That never happened.
Sounds incredibly frustrating.
It's not
to go
just
through
frustrating, it's complete misrepresentation. Oh, and in my last call to their customer service, I asked them to look at the notes from my previous call a month earlier when I asked to change the service, and they had no notes from that or no record of it.
Okay. Brian, you have your hand up. You're next in the queue.
I think MJ was ahead. If you maybe ask MJ, because I have
All right,
some
MJ,
ideas,
go
but I want
ahead.
to hear MJ first.
I want that Fort Fields number because I spent a couple hours on the phone with Comcast last week trying to drop my sports and TV because the Super Bowl was over and I wanted to save money. And so they put me on a lower tier, but then they charged me $35 extra. So the lower tier was like $30, but then they charged me an extra $35 for being on a
Really?
lower tier.
I believe it.
I'm just extrapolating this times 10,000 houses and thinking this is like thousands
Yeah,
of
but,
hours of frustration.
But the
to
other
just,
thing
like,
was when I was
townwide.
talking to the guy and he was trying to send me the contract so that I could sign up for this, I was saying, oh yeah, well, I'm waiting it for load. I'm waiting it for load. And he said, oh, well, you've only got 20. They upgraded. I did that previous internet upgrade thing where I got up to a gig and then they only charged me 90 now instead of 130. But he said, oh, you've only got 20 of your upload speed. I can up that up to 40. So no one ever asked me before, like when they upgraded the download speed, upgrade the upload speed. But then I noticed that they had a mistake in the email that they had in my contract. So I signed, I did the contract. Then I tried to, he said, I'll fix your email, which negated everything we did. So whatever I did with them on those 2 hours, they never updated my email. I never got any of my contract changes. So they're on my list to kind of get back to because
I will email you immediately after this meeting.
I would love to have his number because if I can get like Ultimate TV for like half, with the same price, I'm done. Yeah. Anyway.
Yeah, I think we should definitely have the people that have brought these issues to the committee handled by the contact you found there, John, and then we, then we decide what do we do since everybody is getting hit by this. What's the next step times, however many people.
Right.
If this is the state do we send a letter asking for info? Do we suggest to the select board to send something, or do we draft something and ask the state to consider sending it on behalf of multiple towns? Even if they don't have a regulatory teeth, a letter saying, hey, the right thing to do here is to credit everybody X, Y, and Z because of Y reason, state could send that out. How would you want to handle it, John, if you had flexibility?
I was going to make a point that, that the town has the regulatory authority over cable TV. So why wouldn't we start there?
Yeah, this is the thing. I was very careful, particularly after what MJ said to us in the last meeting. When I was talking to Mr. Porterfield, I explained, I drew a line. I said, okay, here I'm talking to you from CTAC, and now I'm going to take a step back and talk to you about my personal experience. So that he was sure. I said, I can only represent the town up to a certain amount. Coming from the head of the board of the select board would have certainly a lot of impact. So I felt I didn't want to alienate the guy at all. He was trying to be helpful. But I will send you that information just to explain, MJ, if you didn't know. It turns out that the gentleman from the state, Mr. Mail, explained to me that there was, and I looked it up, an FCC rule that said if a cable company is in last-minute negotiations for carriage, as we often see is the case where, certain cable company will drop a certain channel, that they can, if the contract is suddenly signed, that they can immediately put the charges into play in the 30-day notice doesn't apply. What it says is they have to notify the customers and the municipality, supposedly ASAP. They did it in their February bill. Whether that was ASAP or not, that's a question that I couldn't answer. I would say it was probably about 3 weeks at least. So I would say that they could have done a better job on that too. But again, I didn't want to overextend my my authority. I just was trying to gather information.
So what do we
if
want to
the-
do
Do
with
know
so
an
if the
FCC
town-
lawyer if we want to ask if that is accurate. That's under information gathering. We could put an ask to Gigi Sohn if the information, because she was in the FCC and then a nominee to the board. We could make the ask, was what you were told accurate, or is there some other FCC rule here that we are unaware of that would apply?
Well, I can circulate it. It was approved in 2020, and I've got it. I found it online. And it was really designed more for these issues. We see like at times when, like I remember there was a time when Verizon dropped Fox, the Fox network for a few days. And so when they finally signed, they didn't have to give 30 days notice if they were raising their prices. That's what the rule is.
So if there's FCC teeth, I think it would be the state dealing with it. If it's the local cable license, it's us dealing with it. So not sure where we address this under.
Well, I can send information off to MJ about our contact with Michael from the state, he was very accommodating, and he actually preferred to do stuff by phone. And I tried to get him to do it more by email so I could get it by writing. But he was not hard to reach at all.
So John, what do you propose the committee do?
At this point, I'm just supplying information. I think that if MJ and Anne Marie feel that it's appropriate, that then they approach the state and say, we want some regulatory relief here. And possibly in terms of, as I said, of rebates to the customers and forcing Comcast to pay attention, possibly by giving out contact information that goes around their normal phone tree, which is extremely frustrating. John spoke about it. I had other problems at times when I tried to put in a new cable modem.
So John, you're recommending that we then appeal to the state as opposed to approach Comcast directly as the regulatory authority?
I would say appeal to the state first.
Yeah,
So
I would
as a
think it's a good
committee,
idea.
so as a committee, are we recommending that we prepare such a letter that the select board can send, or are we going to send it ourselves, or should we can MJ act upon it as a private citizen rather than just as a select board chair, or what's the next
I think
step?
it has to come from the town somewhere. It has to be an official letter, I think.
So I think we draw a draft for the select board. It doesn't have to be long. If we are requesting the state to do something, we can just say, our committee writes a letter suggesting the select board send it to the Michael Mayo of the state on behalf of the town, saying, we identify this problem. We would like you to use whatever authority you have to negotiate a solution so that we don't have to do this house by house. And then kind of leave it broad so that whatever options he has in his tool shed, we can let him use or bring back to the town.
Okay, John York, you have your hand up. Go ahead.
Well, what I was going to say was that
John York has his hand up.
I'm sorry.
Go ahead, John.
Yeah, I just wanted to note with Mr. Porterfield's contact information. I don't know, and you don't need to cover all this right now, but I'm just throwing this out there. Can you post his phone number and to contact him on your town website?
No, I wouldn't do that because I wouldn't want the guy to be overwhelmed. He's on a national level, but I said if I had somebody, I had been in touch with residents who had an issue and could use someone like him to clean it up. And I was just looking for to do something to expedite this. And he said, yes, absolutely, have them get in touch with me.
Okay.
My opinion.
So if anyone's listening at
put it in our
home,
minutes.
there's a way to bypass the phone tree for things of this nature. And it's when you're on the phone, ask for a ticket to be opened to executive customer service. that ends up getting forwarded to the in region enterprise support reps who normally handle the big customers. And so it won't be an immediate response, but it goes into their queue. So that's how when things get wildly out of control, that is one way. It won't be an instant fix, but it does bypass the phone system.
Right. Well, let me point out something else, because I did when I spoke to Michael Mail from the state, the first thing I said to him is, what I'm looking for here is some advice that I can pass on to our select board. How would you advise we proceed with this? And his advice was, talk to Comcast and let me have this guy get in touch with you. Because I thought he would say, have your board of selectmen get in touch with us. So it was not that at all. He wanted to kind of push himself aside because he couldn't explain what was happening, and let us deal with Comcast directly. So I think the most expedient thing to do, if MJ is going to talk to Michael Porterfield, is to ask him directly, how do you fix this? And if he can't supply an answer, then go back to the state and try to do the legislative thing. I just feel like, in terms of getting the problem fixed, that if we go around all the formalities, we might be able to short circuit this whole thing and get it resolved more quickly. If we try to go through the state, we're going to end up with a more of a bureaucracy situation.
All right, Anne Marie, you have your hand up. Go ahead.
So I think the process here perhaps is we can do one of two things. We can draft a quick letter to the select board, and or we could request that the board give MJ the authority to call if she chooses to accept that authority on behalf of the town to reach out and discuss at what was his name? Michael what?
Porterfield.
Yeah.
Michael Porterfield's with Comcast. Michael Mell is with the state.
Right.
Okay.
Michael Mel is right. It's the state guy.
Right. So you can do one of two things: draft that letter for later, to submit, or submit something so that the board can deliberate and assign, or give the chair the authority to make that phone call.
Right now, I think we don't know what
that would probably be either way. Do you agree, MJ?
Sorry, I'm multitasking. I had to unmute. Yeah, I would agree. I think we have to be cautious about how to move forward. I would not call. I would call on my personal behalf about my situation and speak to him about that. I do think, though, that the select board does need to have a conversation with Mike Gala of Comcast, because we do have to address the cable equipment situation, and we could address this. And I'm not inclined to do that in the March 4th meeting, but I am inclined to set up a meeting with Mike Gala of Comcast to talk about this.
Yeah.
I think we need to talk to Comcast before we go to the state. I don't like to jump too high. Yeah.
So what we can do is draft so it sounds like we have a lot of things that have to go to Comcast and some things that go to the state. Maybe we draft it for the next meeting, negotiate what should be in there, deliberate at the meeting what should be in the letter, and then forward it to the select board to give the select board the authority to delegate to MJ to make some calls to whomever needs to be spoken to.
Or just to some targeted points to have the conversation with Comcast, right? What are some of the targeted points we need to discuss with Comcast and deliberate as a board? That might be very beneficial.
Yeah, I think that's something we can put together in a week's time and have it ready to go for next Thursday.
All right. Do you want to take the lead on that, Brian?
Sure, with copious help from Wendy to edit, I will volunteer as tribute.
All right. So we'll do that next week.
So before, because we won't be able to have to avoid a serial discussion, John, I will need you to send me everything you have.
Okay. I'll try to get that done by the end of today.
And send me because so I'm not a sports fan and I don't watch TV. So I kind of need you to send me the content of the problem for the sports stuff, because I am completely lost there. Give me lasers, numbers, and wires, and I'm your friend, but I don't know. So send me that content to work with, and I'll see what I can do.
Okay. Will do.
And we'll have John look over whatever I edit to make sure that the content is accurate.
Well, you got to be careful with that, right? I guess if we stick with 3 people, we'll be okay.
Yeah. So no Bob on this. So it'd be John. I'll take the lead on it, and if 2 others want to contact me, that's okay with me.
Yeah. All right. John York, you have your hand up. Go ahead.
Yeah, just to be clear, I'm taking my marching orders from you. So am I supposed to call Mr. Porterfield about my particular case,
Yes.
or put that on?
Yeah.
I specifically spoke to him about your situation.
Okay, great.
Have him call me.
Great. So
Yeah, if you brought the issue, you should get your issue resolved immediately while we figure out how to deal with this in mass for everybody,
great.
instead of
So-
having to wait. So we appreciate your time and attention on this.
Great. So I'll talk to John Frank after the
But
meeting.
I will call you right after the meeting.
Great. Thank you.
Okay, no problem.
All right. Anything more on this subject? All right. Next up, possible changes to federal Internet for All program.
Nothing's come down yet. No update.
Okay. So
Actually, a lot of states are actually even pushing back against it. Even Republican states are pushing back against the changes. So nothing's changed yet.
okay. All right. We've reached the end of the agenda. So when do we want to meet next?
Next Thursday should be a quick meeting. I think we'd only have this letter really to discuss. The new letter.
So down here,
6th.
okay, draft letter. All right. Is anything here we should probably take out of the, I don't know, do we need to keep this in here? Broadband.
So we should, and once we find out the CAI plan of Open Cape, since they have an intentions to do CAIs of the whole Cape. So
Right.
that's the closest thing we got to a regional plan.
All right. And anything else that we ought to look at taking out, or just leave it the way it is? No?
It's
All right.
fine as it is.
All right. So this is the agenda. I'll send this in today. Stop the share. Okay. All right. So I'll take a motion to adjourn from anybody.
Motion to adjourn.
Second, anybody?
Second.
All right. We have Wendy. How do you vote?
Aye.
John,
Aye.
Brian,
Aye.
and I vote yes. Okay. We're adjourned. See everybody next week.